Welcome to Legal and Wealthy, the podcast for lawyers who are ready to stop playing small and start building true wealth and a career and life of their dreams, powerfully and purposefully. Whether you're a law student, new associate, or seasoned attorney, this show is for those who are ready to take charge of their law career in a new way. I'm your host, Lauren Klein, attorney, law firm owner, professor, and founder of Legal and Wealthy. Here, we don't just practice law, we practice liberation and becoming wealthy attorneys. Because being a great lawyer shouldn't come at the cost of your time, your peace, or your financial freedom. Every week, you'll get the strategy, mindset, and wealth building guidance that law school never gave you. So you can go from just surviving your career to building a legacy through it. Let's get to work. Welcome back to Legal and Wealthy. Today, I'm sitting down with Anthony Karls, and we've already been chatting, and he's already blown my mind. So you are seriously in for a treat. So today, we're going to be talking about how many lawyers believe the only way to make money is to bill, work. And I've seen it firsthand. But, and this is, really on point with my obsession with lawyers becoming millionaires. What if the real path to wealth in law has nothing to do with working more and everything to do with building smarter systems, smarter marketing, smarter business models? And what we're going to talk about today is really harnessing AI. So I'm so excited to welcome Anthony Karls, entrepreneur, digital marketing strategist, and law firm growth expert. Anthony is the co-founder of Sterling Lawyers, a family law firm that grew to more than 26 and maybe even more now attorneys, and is on pace to hit around between 23 and 25, maybe more, in annual revenue this year, which as a new law firm owner is absolutely blowing my mind. He's also the president of Rocket Clicks, a digital marketing agency that helps law firms attract more clients through SEO, paid media, and revenue systems designed specifically for us, for legal practices. And Anthony also hosts the Revenue Roadmap podcast. I've already been binging it. It's incredible. He shares a lot of strategies, him and other guests, strategies on marketing and leadership and building scalable businesses. So Anthony, welcome to Legal and Wealthy.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to talk.
Yes, so I am excited to talk. So we were chatting. So this year, you're looking at, tell us, what is your anticipated revenue based on the start of the year?
Yeah, so based on the last 6 months of last year and our kind of, when we annualize kind of what that monthly revenue looks like, we should do about 22 to 23 million in revenue this year. We ended last year just under 18. So we're continuing to grow and have really good profit margins. And we're kind of moving into a new phase of our law firm where we're starting to look at potential acquisitions and continue to grow both organically as well as looking for partners throughout the United States to continue growing what we're doing.
It's amazing. I mean, I'm absolutely blown away. And this is why I'm so happy that I get to host this show and talk to incredible people like you so we can learn from you so we can all hopefully do the same. So, I was kind of chatting with you before we started. I was in big law for years and I saw what people were doing. They were just basically working their tail off, even at the partner level. And they were, nowhere near these numbers. I will tell you that. So I think a lot of lawyers think that the way to building wealth is more work, more hours. What did you guys do differently is my first question. And what was the mindset? Like, are you just amazing at this, or did you learn a lot of lessons along the way?
We learned a lot of lessons along the way. I wrote a book called The Waterfall Method, and that's kind of like the method that we operate our law firm from. It's kind of our revenue model. It's how we measure everything. But it also details how we got there because it was through lots of pain and toil. It's not a fairy tale story. It's a story about all of the mistakes we made so we can hopefully help people not make the same mistakes. Our mindset has always been just how do we create leverage within the firm? So a lot of that is right people, right seat. A lot of that is helping our attorneys understand how to create leverage and what that actually means, how to do the thing that they're best at doing and not do everything. So So in some ways, it's how do we teach people that are very much want absolute control, how to give up some control and how to manage delegation and how to elevate people underneath them so that they can have better opportunities for themselves. So that's been a lot of what we brought to the business is like, how can we create leverage? How can we put right people in the right seats? So myself and Jeff Hughes, who are the two founders of Sterling Lawyers, neither of us have an operating role day to day. We're both looking at where are we going in the future. That's pretty rare for a law firm to have the two founders who are still actively working. Like I just turned 40. He'll turn 55 this year. Like we're not by any means old. So like we're like in the primes of our career. And like we hired a president to run the firm. We have two really good managing partners that run our two different states that we're in. And like, we've gone through the process of like teaching and elevating them along the way. We're going to like, our culture is amazing. We're going to win best places to work 2 years in a row here and one in 25. We're nominated for in 26. So it's not just like beat everybody down and we're going to make great money and have good margins and everyone's going to hate us. We also created a really great culture along the way, but it's all about right people, right seats, measurement systems, and really helping people understand how they can create leverage.
What is the waterfall method?
Sure. So it's how we think about measuring a firm. So there's the skinniest version of it is there's 8 metrics you should be tracking in your firm. And it goes super high level. How visible are you to how many inquiries do you have? How many of those are qualified? How many of those get set? How many show? How many get something after the consultation, some sort of material, whether it's just a retainer or we actually hand out folders that are well done. How many fund? And then what's your total cost for that entire journey? So this is something we look at. It's straightforward. Everybody everybody on this listening to this podcast has probably heard those numbers before, but we look at it every day. Every day we have a management huddle. We look at it for the firm as a whole, and we look at it for our 5 different branches that we have. And all of the people managing those branches, they understand those numbers and they understand where the leverage points are. So we're talking about how can we continue to grow and improve the firm. And we've kind of taught this method to our team so that they can continue to grow the firm with Jeff and I not really being involved, and continue to take it on and really honestly perform better than when we were in, because we have the right people now that are, a really good HR director. We got a really good president. We got 2 really great managing partners. Jeff and I are more wild and entrepreneurial and probably drive too hard sometimes. And it's like not great for culture, which is why we never won a culture award when we were in charge. So, but,
and how
so
are
all
you?
of our opportunities.
Yeah. And how are you tracking those metrics, and has that changed from when you first started tracking to how you track today?
Yeah. I mean, when we first started, it was less of those metrics. There was what you find as you start to, or what we found as we started to track them. As our business grew, there was things we were in that were not visible to us that mattered a ton. And like, that's kind of the evolution of that process for us, is like, what are the meaningful things that we need to keep our eyes on, so that if we keep our eyes on those and we start to see them deviate away from where we need them to be, we can address them in real time. Versus, a lot of what we see even from our clients at Rocket Clicks is someone will get their books closed maybe 2 weeks or a month after the prior month. And then you're going to analyze like, okay, what was my profit for the month? And there's an issue. Like I need to address this. I need more leads, or I need something. And it's more like a knee-jerk response. Because we're measuring this every single day, we're making small adjustments, or maybe we're not making an adjustment at all, but like we're starting to watch and we're starting to dig into like, what are the other leading indicators that are pushing this out of range? And we're very data driven in that way, which allows us to respond more in real time, and keep the firm moving on track without any real knee-jerk issues that occur.
And what software are you using for that?
So a lot of people think you need like some fancy software. So that's not necessarily true. we just use Google Sheets. So we import the data and then we just use formulas. For our clients at Rocket Clicks, we have built the dashboards because sometimes it's hard for us to actually get at all of the data where they're putting it in their local firms. So there's like a pretty version of this that we have in a website platform version. But it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Like we use Google Sheets. Our model's way more complicated than most of our clients because we have firm overall, we have 5 branches, we're launching a 6th. So like our platform doesn't necessarily work for our use case because it's built for most firms have one metro area that they're really focused on. They might have 2 and it's and that's great, but now we can like standardize it and make it look pretty and
really cool.
Make it more saleable. But it doesn't have to be any of that. When we started, we didn't look at it every day. We didn't try to. It would be overwhelming the amount of data you'd have to pull, but we did look at it every week. So, and then as we got more resources, we started looking at it more often. We started automating it, and it just continued to evolve as we evolved and grew as an organization.
This episode of Legal and Wealthy is brought to you by Law Firm Sites. Law Firm Sites has been building custom websites and providing online marketing for law firms for over 23 years. They are good at what they do because that's all that they do. If you are looking to expand the reach of your firm or just improve your online presence, Law Firm Sites has the team to do it. Go to lawfirmsites.com or call 1-800-932-8242 and mention Legal and Wealthy to receive 10% off any of their website or marketing packages. That's amazing. Very, very cool, very inspiring, and you're giving me so many ideas. Let's change the conversation a little bit to the AI piece, and we can go back to some other pieces too. But we were chatting, before we started recording about how you and your firm have really been focused on implementing AI and figuring out the right way to use it in the legal space. And I know the audience, we're all trying to, this has evolved so quickly, and we're all trying to figure out how do we really harness this in the best way possible, the most ethical way possible, and so we can continue to grow with AI. I'd love to hear, like, what do you guys have going on? What are your thoughts on AI? What are you doing?
So we're leveraging it a lot throughout the firm. I'll tell you a couple of use cases. So what we subscribe to is basically a fast prototyping model, if that makes sense. So we have one of our attorneys, his name is Jeff Morrell. He loves AI. So he's built a lot of stuff on his local machine to leverage and test and play with. And the things that are working, we've been able to deploy throughout the firm because it creates efficiencies. So Jeff will bill about $1 million this year in revenue. We just do divorces. It's all middle class. Divorces about $10,000 average case value over the course of a whole year. But he'll do about $1 million in revenue on his own. And he works like 20 to 30 hours a week. So he's able to do it because he's created a whole bunch of systems that he leverages to do analysis, to do feedback. And like, it's basically prepping work for him like a legal assistant or paralegal would, but it's way faster and it's exactly what he wants. And then he gets to review it and move it forward. So his velocity is just amazing. And we've taken a lot of those tools and then we've tried to package them and give them to the rest of our team and teach them how to use it. Because not everybody is like obsessed with playing and tinkering and doing that type of thing. That's not how everybody's wired. So that's just like one use case in terms of like how it can like take an email, understand the context of the full email chain with that client, clean out the private data, leverage AI to understand the conversation, bring it back, prep an email, and then he can take it and actually send it. And it's just like massively increase the velocity, improve the total overall communication. I mean, being a lawyer, how many emails you get in your inbox every single day. When you get to respond to all of those accurately and with a lot of context in very short period of time, clients feel super loved on. So our client satisfaction scores are also going up as a result. So like everything continues to get better in that space. So it's just like one use case. Another thing is you grow your firm, like you're going to end up with, a small call center. So one of the things that we do at Sterling is we have what we call a QA team, quality assurance team, and for all of our call center agents, we have 12 of them. They get right now they get 10 calls listened to a week, which is a small subset of their total volume. We recently built a tool that we're testing, and it does every single call that hits our call center in real time. Wow. And I get a report on that call in like 30 seconds after the call is done. So, and it's getting as accurate or better than our QA team, which will then redeploy into the firm to do other things. But it's also given me the full picture of every single agent and all of their phone calls, and like where I have blind spots currently, because we all have blind spots. We just don't know where they are. That's why they're called blind spots. So, but it's highlighting those. It's giving me better reports. It's showing me trends that are working that we can bring into the other agents. So we're very excited about those types of use cases because they're all over it. And my personal opinion is just start small. Start with a very specific problem and then work on solving it. And you'll see really cool results pretty quickly, actually.
Wow. AI just continues to blow my mind. And it's just, like I said, it's crazy how rapidly it's kind of come upon us. So for everyone who's listening and who's like, okay, great. I am not, a techie person. I'm not an expert in AI. I've just been kind of dabbling and trying to even give it the right prompts. What is like a good starting place for them? And what should we be doing to protect client information?
So the first thing from a client information perspective, I would not be putting anything directly into like ChatGPT or Claude or any of the platforms, because you're
What do you like better, ChatGPT or Claude, or do you use both of them?
It depends on what I'm doing, because they're all better at they're all better at different things. So like for general use, ChatGPT is kind of got the best score. It's like it's the player on the team that it's not the best player, it's not the worst player. They're like the third best player for everything, right? So like super solid, you want them on your team, but like you're not going to probably use them for everything. Claude is really, really good for coding. It's great at writing, but it's slower and it's more expensive. Grok is amazing at general coding, and it's ridiculously fast and it's super cheap. So like, depending on like what I'm doing, I'm going to use different tools to like move things faster. So typically when I'm building an application, and I'm not a developer, so like no one should hear, oh, he's a coder, so like this is super easy for him. I don't know how to code anything. I know how to talk to a computer, and it then interprets what I'm asking it to do, and it builds me applications. So like I'm just as unindoctrinated with coding as everybody that's probably on this podcast, or listening to this podcast. So like I've just started playing with it, and what I've learned as I've really gone down this rabbit hole is what you can leverage. What AI can do for you is it can build you safe code for you to leverage. That will essentially parse your information. So essentially think of like if you're going to give a legal document to someone, that could take all of the different parts of that legal document and put it into an Excel sheet, and it accurately categorizes every part of the document into the Excel sheet the right way. So like AI can do that. Then you can take the parts that aren't PPI, feed that into an LLM to get an analysis back, and then it pulls that back into its program, and then you can write. So like you're not ever exposing the data that you shouldn't expose, but it allows you to do that. And like that's where I think people are not necessarily potentially getting themselves in trouble by leveraging AI in an unsafe way, because they're just taking a document and then they're putting it into Claude, and Claude now has all of the information on whatever client that document was referencing, which is not what you want to be doing. Versus if you're doing it kind of the way that I'm describing, none of that information leaves. It's just like it gets the context of what's happening without any of the specifics, if that makes sense. So like name never goes, addresses never go, date of births never go, social securities never go, like none of the PPI information goes. So none of the identifiable things, it's all just like general context. So just strip it out like you would have, an FBI paper and it's all black inked, but you can read through it and you're like, well, something clearly happened here. I just don't know to whom and where. So,
Right.
and that's kind of what it's doing, right? So like you can create that in a really safe way. And then there's a lot of velocity that you can get with whatever type of work you're doing. So it's a little bit of like a process to play around with it. So like I use VS Code a ton. That's like a text editor on your computer. It plugs into all the LLMs to build coding, but then it builds applications that you can then host in the cloud and share with your team. But the LLMs never get access to the PPI because it's all just essentially being created as data that would sit in your CRM. It's just sitting in a different database table. That data doesn't go over. So it's somewhat technical. I understand where the data is going, but I don't understand how it's coded or created. And we do have a team that looks at this stuff and it's being built correctly, which is pretty cool. And we're just really excited about where we're going to be able to take it.
So, okay, so you're using it for obviously the quality control side of things, which is incredible. You mentioned at least the one attorney and then, sharing with the other attorneys to create legal documents. So like walk me through, because I'm thinking about it from my own perspective. Like we do a lot of probate administration. It's the same process every time with, obviously different factors. So how does that work?
Like, how would you start like solving,
yeah, for anyone who's listening, probate or family law or real estate or criminal or whatever area of law they're in, if they're like, okay, I have, a process that I can duplicate it. I just need to make sure like I'm paying attention to the nuances. Like how is it actually creating the legal documents that then like, oh, you kind of said like kind of like a paralegal, like a AI paralegal essentially.
Essentially. Yeah. I mean, so depending on how you're doing your intake, a lot of people are now kind of doing a digital intake. That data goes into your CRM. So you could then pull that data down into an application that you build, and it would be a way more robust document assembly tool than what you would typically get with some of the tools that are out in the marketplace. And if it gets something wrong or there's a new nuance that wasn't captured, it's very easy to update versus like, okay, I got to talk to my team and then I got to talk to the developer and I got to talk to the vendor and like, hopefully they get me this back in 6 months. And then this one problem is solved. Screw all that. I'm just going to write it myself. That's typically kind of what happens.
Right.
Versus, a lot of times when I run into issues, like I was building a tool to automate how we do paid search audits, which is there's 110 different checks. There's tons and tons and tons of data that our team has to comb through. Typically it takes them like 4 to 6 hours to do one. It now does one more accurate than our team does in, I think it's 117 seconds. So, wow. But it took me time to like go back and forth, look at all of the, like, how is the data being sucked in? How is it being categorized? And then how is it being pushed back out and scored on the bandwidth to like tell me whether or not it's correct. And like, I just went through that. It took me about a day. And now I have something that's really, really complex. It typically takes 4 to 5 years to learn how to do well, is done automatically with the program. So it does take like time to build, but if you just spend time on, we don't do probate. So I'm not necessarily sure what that process would look like, but I'm assuming there's a whole bunch of information that you get from a client that you then need to assemble based on their specific scenario. Mm-hmm. So that would be something you could easily do with these tools.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. And so if someone out there is listening and they're like, well, I don't have anyone on my team, or I know there's no one in my office or in my firm that can put this together. Cause I mean, you're saying you're not techie, but it sounds like you're pretty techie. So is there like someone out there, a company out there that is offering the services of like, we will build out this application for you based on your needs. We'll put this together for you.
There are, I don't know any that I would specifically recommend, at this point. I was at I was at a conference that was talking about acquisitions a couple weeks ago called DealCon. There was a vendor there that talked about that, but they're fairly new companies, so they're not very well known right now. But I'm positive there is one in the legal space that does this, and it would just, if I were looking for one, what I would actually literally do is I would go to Grok and I'd say, this is what I'm looking for. Who can you find that specializes in building these types of tools for a probate attorney? And like, you probably get 3 or 4 really good suggestions. So
yeah, it's crazy. What a time to be alive. But it's great because, like you said, I just turned 40 as well. We're kind of in that prime time where we have the years of experience. We've learned a lot of lessons, but now we can harness it. It's really exciting. It really is. And how does AI kind of tie in with SEO? How has the world of SEO changed from your perspective? What do people need to think about? Because obviously we all need to evolve quickly, like evolve or die here. What are the things we need to think about with SEO?
So what I wouldn't do is over index on like, oh, we got to make tons and tons of content. We got to do all this like stuff, because you're gonna thin it out, and it's not going to be built in a way that you want to do it. So if I were to, the things that have changed the most, the AI platforms in terms of like how they determine visibility looks very similar to Google search, but there are some differences. There's some pretty large differences. But I would say there's about a 60 to 70% overlap. The 30% delta, one of them is customer sentiment. So if you're not doing a good job with your customers and they're talking about it online, AI visibility is going to drop you. And like, so reviews are really important. I know that's been said to everyone for a really long time. It's been hard to prove that actually does much of anything other than like help from a conversion perspective, like technical tests that I've done. So like one of the things that kind of growing the firm has given me the ability to do in the space to do is like really test the algorithm. So we have fake websites, fake GMBs, and like we've been able to like test what happens when I just dump a bunch of reviews in. Nothing really happens, but it does impact AI visibility. If that makes sense. So
it does.
Typically from a technical perspective, because like if I'm putting a bunch of reviews on a fake brand that isn't getting any traffic, based on what Google says, I should rank higher. That doesn't happen because there are no user metrics. Reviews in the SEO world, they impact users' perception and interaction with your asset. So if you have a map listing with good reviews, it's more likely to get interacted with than a map listing with no reviews. On the AI side, that's not true. On the AI side, if you don't have good reviews, they're not going to show you. So it's different. They're related, but they're different. Yeah. So sentiment is really important. And then how you talk about specific problems is becoming more and more important. So anybody that's used AI knows you kind of just talk to it back and forth, and you get to it like a point where you're like, okay, yeah, I like what I'm hearing as a solution for that. What would the recommended next step be? And that's kind of when businesses start to show up. Like, here's who are the people we would recommend. All of the stuff prior to that in the conversation, that is what they're then looking for on your content assets to determine whether or not you're going to be visible, if that makes sense. And that's very different than I'm going to write a really, really professional article that's perfect, because the conversation we're having is going to do better on AI visibility than a really perfect article written about AI visibility, because the context we're using in the conversation is exactly how people are going to talk to the LLMs about how do I rank better for, how do I get more visible in ChatGPT, for instance. So
just to be clear, are we talking about like a Google search where you have the AI at the top, or are you talking about a search within ChatGPT?
I'm talking about both. So like if I want to rank really well for in Google search, I want a really well professionally written article that's kind of like perfect, prim, and proper, right? So like
for the little like AI at the top that you see.
That's different. So that I'm talking about the organic search results on the page. For the AI visibility on the top, that's this conversation. So like if this type of conversation and language isn't used on that prim and proper page, you're not going to show in that AI snippet, right? And you're not going to show if you do some research on ChatGPT. So it's changing like how you need to put information on your website because it uses two different language models.
Wow. Crazy. Thank you for all of that. I still feel like I have a million questions, but that was really helpful and incredibly insightful.
So like really
yeah,
good, like specific how to implement this.
Yeah, please.
For like us. So like typically when I do a podcast, I will do, we'll have an article related to that that's made for SEO. But we also have the transcript either linked to or directly on the page, because then all of this context, this back and forth, that's either related, that's like directly linked to from the page and is creating that connection, or it's not. So like as you're thinking about building content, why video is becoming more and more important is if you do a video for whatever topic, like how to file for divorce in Wisconsin, what we talk about in the video is gonna be very different than what we write about on the page if you like try to do a language match, but they're going to be very much the same, but they're going to help us rank for two different things, two different platforms.
Wow. You're giving me a lot of food for thought right now. I'd like to kind of change over a little bit to scaling a law firm. A lot of our listeners are, entrepreneurial. They've started their firm. They've gotten themselves to great revenue, but they're like, okay, I really need to continue to scale, but I don't know how to do that. And I know that you helped scale. You scaled, your firm to what it is today, using couple different strategies. I think you said the territory strategy, and the hub and spoke model. So I'd love to hear, what do those mean? What do people, if they're like, okay, it's time to scale, I'm ready, what does that mean? And how have you achieved these incredible numbers?
Yeah. So, I mean, so when we're talking about kind of like how we look at territories, before we go into a market, and this is all learned because like we went into downtown Chicago, we put a location in the Loop, which is like the most downtown of downtown. We ranked first on Chicago divorce lawyers. We were ranked first in the maps, and literally nothing happened. Like our business didn't change. I was like, oh man, this is going to be great. Like we're going to crush the moon, and nothing happened. And I'm like, why is this not working? As we like really dug into it, what we found, especially in large metro areas, is several different things. So one, the people who buy online, the people that like purchase online, which was our main acquisition channel, because Jeff hadn't practiced for years. We were hiring our team. So we were not building off referrals. We were building off a client acquisition model. People that buy online, people that want to buy online that can't afford services, like they're going to be interested, but they can't afford to work with you. But people that get over about 250,000, 225, 250, they start having relationships already. And they're not going to go online as often as people that are out, that are kind of like between that. We will typically not go into a market or an area if it's lower than like 30,000 median income from a zip code perspective, because they're not going to end up being buyers. But above that, between like 50 and 200 is a sweet spot where there's a lot of buyers online because they don't have pre-existing relationships. So they're more likely to engage with reviews, engage with online content, do all that. But once you kind of get out of that, there's pre-existing relationships with accountants, with lawyers, with other people in their network, that's how they're going to find their service area. Yeah. So downtown, back to the Loop, it's an inverse demographic curve, right? So there is no bell curve where the middle is who we're looking at. It's literally it's a U. It's not it doesn't look like an N. So there was no buyers there. And the radius signal that's in downtown Chicago, people are willing to travel about 8 to 12 blocks for services, which means in Chicago, there are tons of little metro areas in there. right? Because people aren't willing to travel. It's a pain in the butt to travel downtown Chicago. And they don't want to go, if they're in Evanston, downtown Chicago to have a consultation. They're not going to do it. And they didn't do it. Like, that's exactly what happened to us. So we had to go through this process of like identifying what are these very specific parameters. And then once we learned that, one of the biggest ones is how far were people willing to travel for service? And then there's tools online that we use to basically identify what is an actual radius of travel time for a specific area. And then what do the demographics look like for that travel time density? That makes sense. And then we know, like, okay, here's a metro area. Here's like a place we can put it. And then here's where the metro area ends. So we need something else that will continue to access it. So that's kind of our hub and spoke model, where we can identify here's a marketplace online that has good enough reach. We typically look for marketplaces that have at least 70,000 ideal buyers, 70,000 households that have ideal buyers. And that's where we'll put a hub, and then we'll kind of build spokes around it, looking for similar setups, but those would be satellite offices. And that's how we've really been able to go throughout the state of Wisconsin and start taking market share in all of Illinois, and just kind of going through identifying those marketplaces and then building out from there, leveraging same tactics every single time. Like, it's always SEO, it's always maps, it's always paid search. Now it's AI visibility. So that's kind of how we've continue to move and evolve. But it's really like looking at those really key underlying metrics of how far are people willing to travel, what's the health of the demographics of that travel time radius, and then does it make sense to put a location there or not? And that's not often how people pick. Oh, so go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's not often how people pick where they're going to put their office. It's oftentimes
I've never heard that.
Well, how is this convenient for me to drive to from my house?
Right.
Which is that, that's a thing to think about. But if there are no buyers there, online's not going to work for you.
And for firms that are mostly virtual, how would you kind of apply this strategy?
Very similarly, because just because you're virtual, it doesn't mean that the buyers don't care that you're virtual. They're still going to buy the same way they buy in every market. Right. So a lot of our consultations are over the phone or over the, like a Zoom meeting, Google Meet.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily matter. They're like psychologically programmed to think, oh, I'm not going to go that far, because they think they're going to have to go to the office, even though they don't. So but they come in with that assumption. It doesn't mean it's not true. It's part of their psychological assumptive buying behavior. So you have to account for that in terms of how you're thinking about acquiring customers.
Hey, let's be honest. Are you a high-functioning attorney or law student, but kind of low-key exhausted, maybe successful on paper, but secretly wondering, is this it? That's exactly why I created the Wealthy Lawyer Reset. It is a 6-day reset for lawyers and law students who are done with burnout, chaos, money, energy, and just running on fumes. For 6 days, we reset your mindset, your money, and your nervous system, because we cannot build true wealth and have great health if we are living in survival mode. It's just the fact of the matter. And because I am that kind of girl, we end with a virtual yoga session with the Aman Costigan. So you're not just wealthy on paper, you're regulated, grounded, and actually enjoying your life. This is not about hustling harder. It's about recalibrating everything so your wealth and your health can feel calm, aligned, and sustainable. If you're ready to enter your wealthy lawyer era without burnout, join me inside the Wealthy Lawyer Reset. 6 days, one reset, a completely different relationship with money, your health, and your success. Check out the show notes or go to my Instagram to learn more about the Wealthy Lawyer Reset. It really helps for a law firm to have a marketing person, doesn't it? It really does. Oh my gosh. I hope we could become friends so I can just keep asking you questions forever. All right. So as we kind of wrap this up, you've given us so many things to think about. For lawyers who are listening today and they're like, okay, I'm building my firm. You've given me so many things to think about when it comes to marketing and AI and strategy and territory. If they really want to build true wealth, like they're like, okay, but I really want to do this in a way that I can actually build wealth, which we all know in the legal industry does not always happen. Where should they start? Is it a mindset thing? Is it a certain strategy they should implement? Is it like a certain person they should hire? Like where should they start? If they're like, okay, now I'm inspired. Where do I go from here?
I would suggest that the biggest shift needs to occur in it's a mindset shift from the how value is how value is valued, if that makes sense. So
Mm-hmm.
if you can't transfer anything you've built to someone else because it's all attached to you, there's very likely not to be a wealth event, right? Because
Yeah.
it's reliant on you existing in your current seat. So what systems are you building that don't require you to sit in the seat to create the value, right? That is probably the most important thing, because like once you can wrap your head around that, now you're thinking differently about the firm's value. Because like you might have an amazing network and you might be great with people and you might be able to go and do all the networking events and get great referrals. But as soon as you stop working, no value, and you can't sell it. There's nothing to sell because you are not doing anything anymore. So, and what's 89% of all of our business is not referral. That's Sterling, which is, it's
Wow.
very different than everybody else. We still get referrals and we get great referrals, but we also continue to grow. And like, that's how we think about it. So we are not reliant on any attorney. There's no reliance in the system. And that's kind of like how we've thought about it, is like, where is there reliance that if this one thing moves, the whole thing falls out? Right. And a lot of, and like, that's not a law firm problem. That's most small businesses issue, is like, how do I'm building something, I make, my owners benefit from this business is $750,000 a year. I want to sell it. I want to move on. I want to do something different, but there's nothing to sell. And like the problem really lies in like what was there in terms of creating value. So like, that's why we really subscribe to the waterfall method, because then we can see like, where are we getting value from, and like what's contingent on this person doing stuff. Because that, if you're really good at generating referrals, you have such a great opportunity to take that asset and then build something that's super valuable, if that makes sense. Because you can like reinvest essentially your annuity that you've created in your referral network to like build value in your firm, versus just leveraging the annuity. It's great, but the annuity stops as soon as you stop. And like, that's kind of the I would say the biggest issue. And then I think second to that is like, how do you strategically allow yourself to give up control so that you can be in a place where it goes hand in hand with the first one. Because if you have to be involved and control everything, it's very likely that to create a wealth event, it's not going to happen because you have to be involved. So those would be my advice, like helping yourself and helping others create leverage. Because how I would describe our firm is, we have 5 branches. Within each of those branches, there's 3 or 4, probably 2 to 4 partner level people that have understood how to create leverage. So they are a partner, but they have an associate that they're working with, paralegal and a legal assistant, and they're all super busy. But that's how the partner is making really good money, if that makes sense, because they've created leverage in that system. And like, we haven't hid that, and we haven't tried to like hold on to that. We've like, here's how you do it. Like, do it with us, or you can compete with us. Like, those are your 2 options. Like, we're going to show you how to do this and do this well, or you can leave and try to do it on your own. And there's a whole bunch of people that have done that, and we continue to win. So I think our strategy is working, but I can be proved wrong as well. So
Wow, that was a really, really good answer. I think it kind of just really cuts to the point of what we all need to be thinking about. It can feel really hard and scary, but I agree with you. That is the mindset shift that does need to happen for a wealth event to occur in the law. And I think that's why it often does not occur. Either people don't realize that they need to do that, or they just can't give up the reins. Well, this has been such an insightful and incredible conversation, Anthony. I'm really happy that you were on and that you shared everything with us today. This was excellent. Where can people learn more about you, about your businesses, connect with you?
Sure. I'm on LinkedIn. You can look me up there. You can also find me on rocketclicks.com or sterlinglawyers.com. So and then we often have webinars at Rocket Clicks. They're completely free, and like we literally go through our strategies that we do over at Sterling, because it's a big marketplace. I think from our calculation, there are about 68,000 family law firms throughout the United States. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of stuff to go around. So us hoarding it and not giving it away and kind of sharing what we've learned and letting everybody that learn the same bad lessons that we had to learn is not necessarily useful. So happy to connect and share what we've learned.
Wonderful. Thank you again for being on Legal and Wealthy, and I hope to connect with you again soon.
Yeah, awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Tune in next time to Legal and Wealthy. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to Legal and Wealthy. If today's episode sparked something in you, take it one step further. Share it, leave a review, or come connect with me inside the Legal and Wealthy community. Remember, wealth isn't just about the numbers. It's about how you lead, how you live, and how you build beyond the billable. You already have what it takes to create real freedom and wealth. I'm just here to help you claim it.